Is the fact that you've kind of found where you are now also a reaction in a way to the success you've had? Because you get thrown into this world where people try to define you.
Mm-hmm.
People have views of you that might not
Mm-hmm.
always be correct.
Yes.
And and like you say, this is a very personal, back to basics in a way type of album. So is that part of it, a reaction to kind of what you've experienced?
It became a reaction not only to what I've experienced, and people trying to put me in a box or define me as this or that because of the platform and the
Right.
fame that comes with my job, but also I felt like the world needed a reminder of the humanity that we all share, because I think now times are very, very divisive and people are very against each other, and they forget that the side that they're fighting against is also human. And this music is really, this album is a meditation in a lot of ways on our humanity. Through the heroes that died and gave us these art forms to be able to do that. You can listen to this album and it can put a spirit in your house, or you can just listen to it with your eyes closed and meditate through it. And it's a way for you to kind of reconnect. And it doesn't fix the situation. It doesn't change the struggles or
Sure.
the fight for you, but you get a chance to have solace and peace in a moment where you can reconnect with your spirit, your God-given essence,
Right.
and then go back out into the world. And I think that's very important these days. So I discovered myself, but I also wanted to now give that gift through my music and my art to other people.
What if you heard from people who've listened to the album so far in terms of kind of connecting and then, like you say, kind of connecting to themselves as well?
It's amazing the response of people sending me them doing either covers of songs, Don't Stop or Is It Over, or just listening to What a Wonderful World with their kids, or people who have taken the songs and even had it be the soundtrack to their weddings, or just like the range of different ways this music exceeded my expectation. And the response to how well it's been selling is a reflection of how much I think people need to reflect and haven't really made space for that.
It's interesting because there is so much noise these days that it's difficult to take that step back and to look at yourself and look at kind of what's going on, I suppose. With that in mind, then let's jump into a couple of songs in a little bit more detail. Then you mentioned Louis Armstrong, "What a Wonderful World."
Oh yeah.
Is it difficult to cover such a song?
I think it's difficult to cover a song if you don't understand the song. I think that when I say understand a song is like a person. Each song has a personality and a life. And you have to understand the personality and the life of the song to really be able to reinvent it or reimagine it. And for me, What a Wonderful World was a song where there was a deepness and profundity to it that wasn't brought out in the lyrics. So I wanted to make it a meditation on the lyric and create a space for you to really take stock when you listen to it. And Louis Armstrong and his personality, his persona, was something that people see as jovial, but he was also a very profound person, and not many know that. And that's something that he infused into his performance of the song that was also not brought out. So the way that I sing it and the way that I arranged it musically are all geared towards giving you a chance to meditate on that lyric, which I think is one of the most deep and profound lyrics in music.
This kind of makes me think, and maybe I'm completely wrong with this, but because of like I mentioned earlier, because of success, people might see you a certain way. Is this album also an exploration of sides that people don't know of you?
It's sides that I know of myself
Right.
that people don't know of me, which I think paints a full picture. A lot of people have been exposed to me through the show, which is a great thing, but they don't really know me other than the character that I kind of play on the show, which is a part of Hollywood. That's a part of TV. It's not a human thing, but I'm a human.
Sure.
And this project is amazing to me to see the response of people who are like, wow, this is really impactful art, but I can also be a kind of silly guy on a show. And that range, I think, is beautiful. And people have no idea even the further things I have to offer, which I'm very excited because it brings more attention to the music because they don't get the music as much in that same way on the show. So it's like a great kind of, it's a balance that I'm creating with the more art that I create and more art that I put out into the world.
Was there one song in particular, or maybe one you can mention that you were glad that you got to do because it was so different from what you were doing on TV?
Well, everything on the album
Okay.
really, I think "Is It Over" is something that when you hear it, it's got such a pathos. It's dark, and the show is much. Even though we're talking about heavy things, it's a comedy show.
Of course, yeah.
So I like that. I like the ability to have to explore that on a record. Obviously, "Don't Stop," which I was able to do on the show, and "Wonderful Wonderful World" I was able to do on the show, are songs that are about encouragement and inspiration, which is not something that you necessarily get from watching the show because it's more about easing your pain. It's not downright encouragement. It's pointing out things that are wrong.
Right.
So my role on the show is really to kind of balance that. And when I'm able to do it even further by performing the songs on the show and putting out music, I love that.
The song "Don't Stop." Do you remember what mindset you were in when you wrote that?
Yeah, I was in a very low point. I lost the plot,
Okay.
and I wanted to figure out.
Sorry, how come?
Well, you go through. For me, at the time, it was just a accumulation of things. Just being on such a high platform, but not really feeling like my voice or who I am was being heard or shared, and almost feeling as though I was being an imposed sense of self and a sense of almost like putting on a mask. I was losing myself in that, and also just the effect that was having on my personal relationships because I was doing so well, but I was taken away from the everyday things that when I was just touring as a musician, I was able to hang out and speak to my friends or have more steady communication with my family. And you just get to a point where you don't feel connected. And then for me, I try to respond with art, with something that can reconnect me to my purpose. And that song came from that time.
And obviously on this album, and I read that you didn't do this before, but obviously you're singing. And for you, I'm sure you've sung along the way. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
from New Orleans, you probably sing anyway.
Yeah.
But was it for you was it something you had to get used to or something you had to focus on for this album?
It's funny because I had been singing for years, but never really as a part of my presentation.
Right.
So it wasn't something I had to get used to. I think it's more, again, people getting used to me and getting to know me, which I think in retrospect has been a great marketing decision because people now know me from the show and then they hear the music and they don't expect the music to be that, which makes more of the music than if they did, that's what I expect, then it's less of an impact and it circulates less. It's just a very interesting, because I think that I'm now comfortable sharing more of myself with the public. And it lines up with me being in the public eye more.
Sure.
So it's just, I didn't have to get used to it, but I think people, because I'm a public figure now, people are getting used to the fact that, oh, there's more than what we thought. So.
Fair enough. Then finally, because you mentioned Hollywood, the album is titled Hollywood Africans, named after a painting by
Yes, Jean-Michel
Basquiat.
Yes.
Yeah. What does that idea that's because I'm not going to try and interpret what Basquiat
Yes.
meant, but what does it mean to you?
Well, what
That
Basquiat
idea.
meant, Basquiat is an artist who was Haitian and Puerto Rican. He lived in New York from Brooklyn, and he was in the Lower East Side in the '80s doing a huge boom in art and gender identity and so many different things about the '80s music culture, from the beginnings of hip hop and punk, new wave, were all a part of that, and more were part of his art. And he was one of the pioneers of not only his style, but the idea that a African American artist could be up on the level of Picasso and Matisse.
Right.
So, and recently he had a work sell for 110 million, which is
I read that.
so. And I had been studying him because I have the opportunity now. I'm doing a musical for Broadway in New York about his life. And Hollywood Africans is a 1983 piece that he was writing about. He has text in his work where he's writing about all these different things that marginalize African Americans in the entertainment world, and how he's a part of that lineage, but he's also breaking the chains of that. And I'm saying the same thing, but I'm also adding to that, saying that no amount of marginalization is going to keep this thing, this divine thing that we've been talking about, this music and this art and this creativity, from going out into the world. And because they wore a mask, I don't have to wear a mask. So I can do a record like this, and I can do another record that shows another part of me, and I can be who I am and exist in this place and still be authentic. And that's the time that we're living in. And we have a long way to go still.
Of course.
But we're in a time where now someone like me, in this long lineage of artists and creators, can do things that were unimaginable to my ancestors.
Final question then, because this kind of made me think of something. I think what you were just talking about kind of reminded me of the Harlem Renaissance in a way, the 20s, the way art from minorities and kind of excluded people
Yeah.
rose to the top,
It's
and
a
then
great
there was a
time.
certain pride in it. And I believe that in the kind of final words in the booklet of your album, you mention also kind of I can't remember the exact wording, but feeling privileged to be born African American. And
Yes.
so why is this? Why is this? Why? Yeah, can you explain a little, kind of?
Yes, being born is being born into something is always a great realization, because you don't know when you're a baby.
Sure.
And ultimately, I believe in above race, above anything, it's DNA, there's the soul, there's the spirit, and that's the same across the board. But in the world that we live in, you have been called to speak to different things and to exist in different spaces. And being an African American and being a performer and being a part of so many different lineages, you realize, wow, these are all very special things to be able to, in this life, this short lifespan, to represent. Even though, again, the ultimate expression of love is greater than all that. But you have to get there through some road, and my road is the road of the African American, and that's my people. So now realizing that as a performer and infusing that into my art, it always has been there, but just the realization of it in these times, it's a privilege to be able to serve humanity from that place as an artist. I mean, I can't imagine anything that's greater for me to be doing right now. And I don't know where that will take me in the future, but just I wrote that because now, especially, it's just there's something special about representing those lineages.
Jon, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.